Halliburton had the ball. There were less than 10 seconds left. The Oklahoma City Thunder defense was tightening up on him. The arena was vibrating and the tension could be cut with a knife. Then, as if time froze, he rose up and nailed a shot that not only defined the game, it was one of those moments that in another era would have been etched in sports history. The problem? No one was watching it live because, yes, we are in the middle of the NBA Finals 2025 and they seem invisible. It's as if the most important game of the year were a friendly tournament lost in the desert, and we're not just saying this because of the general mood, we're saying it with the numbers in hand. Game 1 between the Indiana Pacers and Oklahoma City was the least watched finals opener since the dark days of COVID. Only 8.91 million people watched it on TV, and that for a league that marketed itself as the best show on the planet is like showing up to a concert and having 3 people and a cow applaud you. But the paradox is brutal. The level of basketball is extremely high. Games are being decided by heroic plays. Kids like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Tyrese Halliburton are tearing it up, and teams are killing themselves on the court to achieve a historic title. Oklahoma has never been a champion, Indiana neither. We are witnessing something that has never happened, and yet it seems no one cares. Is it the algorithm's fault? Do young people no longer watch live sports, or is there something darker behind it? A measurement system that no longer works, a poorly sold narrative, or simply an NBA that has lost its charm? Today, we will dissect all of that with juicy data, numbers that sting, and an analysis that will leave you shocked. Because we're not just going to talk about the low ratings, we're going to discuss why that no longer means anything. So if you've ever wondered why no one turns on the TV to watch the NBA anymore, or why you prefer to watch highlights on YouTube instead of sitting through 4 whole quarters, this video is for you. The data is devastating. Game 1 of this finals averaged just 8.91 million viewers on ABC. And while at first glance it may seem like a huge number, in the NBA world, that's sad. There were only 2 worse finals openings in the entire history, and they were during the pandemic when half the planet was locked down watching homemade bread recipes. We are talking about a historic collapse in one of the events that used to be the crown jewel of world sports. Last year, when the Boston Celtics faced the Dallas Mavericks, the first game had 11.31 million viewers. So in just 1 year, they lost over 2 million people. What happened? Did fans forget there was an NBA? Do the teams not generate attraction? Or is it simply that basketball is no longer consumed the way it used to be? Because it must be said, for many, a finals featuring Indiana and Oklahoma sounds like a menu without salt. LeBron, Curry, the Lakers, the Celtics, the Warriors, traditional brands are not there. And although the game may be epic, many people don't even realize it's happening. It's as if the NBA is shouting in an empty room. But the craziest thing is that while television ratings are showing increasingly sad numbers, the NBA is exploding on social media. Viral clips, record-breaking statistics, and players racking up more views than reggaeton artists. So why do we keep measuring success with a broken thermometer? Something doesn't add up, or rather, it's falling apart. The old model of turning on the TV and watching the whole game is no longer the standard, and if the world has changed, why is the measurement system still the same as it was 30 years ago? The ratings are indeed falling, but is it really the product's fault, or are we simply looking at it with the wrong eyes? Before Game 2 of the finals, Commissioner Adam Silver stood in front of the press with a look of enough with the nonsense and dropped a statement that left everyone thinking, I'm tired of being told about the ratings when we just saw an amazing game. And he has a point. Game 1 was an emotional bombshell. A nail-biting finish with Halliburton performing magic, intense defenses, and movie-like tension. But instead of talking about that, everyone was focused on the numbers. Silver, visibly frustrated, said he finds the level of obsession with ratings disproportionate and that there's a narrative set up by some media that only seeks to generate artificial drama. What hurts him is not only that the numbers are down, but that basketball isn't being talked about. And let's be clear, it's not that he is denying reality. He himself admitted that he thinks about it all the time. But he also dropped a bomb. According to him, the media exaggerate the decline in ratings to generate more clicks. It's as if they are selling a bad smoke show while the real product, the games, are at a very high level. But of course, it's also necessary to understand him. Silver is in an impossible position. He has to defend the league, protect the franchises, keep the sponsors happy, and reassure the television networks that put billions of dollars on the table. If he admits that the ratings are a problem, it could create a domino effect, but if he denies it, he comes off as blind to the obvious. So what do? Do we believe him when he says the media exaggerate, or do we suspect he is just doing damage control like any CEO in crisis? The truth is that beyond the rhetoric, the way we measure success in the NBA is in jeopardy, because if the most powerful commissioner in the sports world no longer wants to talk about numbers, it might be because the numbers no longer serve to tell the complete story. Here's the elephant in the room: no one watches television like before. period. Whether you like it or not, we are living through a cultural transition where the remote control has lost its power and what matters now is the scroll. Meanwhile, we are still using tools from the 90s to measure the success of a product from 2025. The traditional rating system, yes, that one from Nielsen that measures how many people turn on the TV, is based on a model that does not fully account for the digital world. It does not measure those who watch games through apps. It doesn't accurately capture those who watch on YouTube TV, Hulu, mobile platforms, or simply pirate the stream from some lost Discord in the deep web. And it certainly does not measure the kids who find out about everything through TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube Shorts. It's as if the NBA had a huge audience but was looking for it in the wrong place, like a rock band measuring its success only by CD sales, ignoring that it has millions of streams on Spotify. On top of that, the current format of the games doesn't help. Who can stand 2.5 hours of gameplay with commercial breaks every 5 minutes, analyses that seem like TED Talk monologues, and endless pauses between free throws? Young people no longer consume content like that. They want everything fast, condensed, with highlights, with memes, with storytelling, with immediate emotion, and that doesn't fit into a traditional TV rating. So what do? Do we keep judging the NBA by the numbers on an old box that no one turns on? Or do we start accepting that the audience is more alive than ever, but expresses itself differently? Because if TV is a thermometer, it's reading a fever, but maybe we're using the thermometer on the elbow, not in the mouth. Before, watching a complete NBA game was a sacred ritual. You'd prepare something to drink, turn on the TV, and immerse yourself in the four quarters as if it were an epic movie. But nowadays, the average fan, especially those under 25, probably doesn't even watch the first half. But this doesn't mean they're not interested in the NBA, it simply means they consume content differently. The new generation doesn't sit down to watch those 48 minutes. Instead, they devour highlights on Instagram, top 10s on YouTube, edits with trap music on TikTok, and analyses from YouTubers who often explain things in a more entertaining way than the official commentators. And all of this happens minutes after the game ends. Not the next day like it used to, it's all immediate, all at once. Want to see Halliburton's points? There's a clip for that. Want to see Shea's block? Here's a reel. Looking for opinions? There are 15 podcasts that already discussed it before you even get up for breakfast. The NBA is more present than ever, but it no longer exists on the big screen in the living room. It lives in the feeds of phones. The problem is that executives and networks are still trying to sell a VHS. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is having the best playoffs of his career. He is elegant, lethal, unstoppable. His style seems to be a mix between Kobe, Ginobili, and an R&B playlist. But the most striking thing isn't happening on the court, it's happening on your phone. During these playoffs, Shai accumulated 864 million views on social media. Yes, you read that right. Almost 1 billion times people watched his plays, reactions, interviews, dance moves, or killer looks after a fadeaway. He's the most viewed player of the year on all digital platforms, more than LeBron, more than Luka, more than anyone. And the same goes for Tyrese Halliburton. His clutch shot in Game 1 didn't succeed in the ratings, but it was a viral success. It was shared everywhere, from official accounts to memes with anime music. The same shot that almost no one saw live was replicated millions of times on TikTok, Reels, Shorts, whatever you can think of. This is key. The narrative is shifting places. Idols no longer need to break through on national television to become legends. Today, they are built with every clip that explodes, with every GIF that circulates, with every fan-made edit that sets the algorithm ablaze. And this is not coincidence. The NBA knows this, which is why it is investing more and more in digital content, 4K cameras dedicated solely to capturing viral angles, and even adjustments to the schedule to maximize social buzz. Because while traditional ratings are plummeting, attention has never been higher. It's just that now you have to know where to look for it. Shai doesn't need prime time, because he is already prime time, but in vertical format on your screen, on the subway, in the bathroom, wherever you open Instagram or YouTube. That is the new NBA, and if you don't see it, it's because you're looking in the wrong place. Let's be honest, if these finals were Lakers versus Celtics, we'd be talking about sky-high ratings, front-page coverage everywhere, and a media frenzy of cosmic proportions. But it's Pacers versus Oklahoma, and suddenly it seems like nobody cares. Why? Because the dominant narrative remains tied to old glories, to teams that built media empires over decades with history, titles, idols, and rivalries. In contrast, Indiana and Oklahoma have something worse in the industry's eyes. They have no legendary past. They aren't glamorous franchises. They don't have the rings, the posters, or the t-shirts that you used to buy in the 90s, and that weighs heavily. The general public, those who don't follow the season every day, more easily connects with the familiar. It's easier to sell a LeBron versus Curry 5.0 than a Halliburton versus Shai clash of future legends. And that's despite the fact that the basketball these teams are playing is top-notch with identity, character, and real emotion. But there's no narrative, there's no constructed story, and what doesn't have a story doesn't have ratings. The media didn't know or didn't want to build mythology around these franchises. Instead of telling us who they are, how they got here, or why their stories are incredible, they preferred to say, meh, nobody knows them, they don't sell. A self-fulfilling prophecy, and you know what's most ironic? If the Pacers or Thunder managed to win a title, they would probably change their city's history forever. It would be something gigantic, historic, but silent. Like a meteorite falling in the desert and nobody filming it. So the question is not whether these teams generate interest. The question is, who decided they don't? The people or the media that never gave them a chance to excite? Because if you only show what was already popular, you'll never let the new grow. And the NBA, which proudly claims to be a league of the future, is failing to build it when it moves away from the coast. You can have Shea scoring 40 points without breaking a sweat. You can have Halliburton shooting with a defender's hand in his face. You can have a game one decided at the last second. But if the whole game was a choreography of three-pointers, layups, and free throws, something breaks. The heart of the game beats, yes, but with a flat rhythm. Because beyond the ratings, the viral moments, the algorithms, and Adam Silver's speeches, the underlying problem remains the same we've been pointing out for a while. The NBA has become a mathematical formula, an Excel spreadsheet disguised as a show. Everything is so optimized, so studied, so calibrated that the surprise has been lost. You already know how a play begins. You know they're going to spread the floor, move the ball to the perimeter, and shoot a three-pointer. If it doesn't go in, rebound and repeat. Zero improvisation, zero mid-range shots, zero plays that make you go, wow! From your soul. It's like watching a movie with a predictable ending and without a plot twist. And that hits hard, because even though the individual talent is at an all-time high, and even though teams like Oklahoma and Indiana are playing at a brilliant level, the format of the game is worn out. The spectacle has become a loop. A game of percentages that, if you watch it in highlights, is exciting, but if you watch the entire thing, you might doze off halfway through the third quarter. There lies the great contradiction. The NBA has never had such technical quality, such data, such analysis, and at the same time, it has never had so little emotional impact in its live games. It's a brilliant product, but cold, efficient, but soulless. So why doesn't anyone watch? Because it's no longer enough to just translate into English without modifying the text, just having good players. The game has to move you, and if the emotion only comes in the final clip with some edited music, perhaps the whole game wasn't worth that much. The NBA stands at a crossroads. It's not an exaggeration, it's not sensationalism, it's a painful truth. Either it changes, or it becomes a luxury dinosaur that no one wants to watch live. Because yes, the talent is there, the players are incredible, but the model is broken. Old, rigid, structured for an era when ESPN was watched on the living room TV and not summarized in 30-second clips while you scroll through your phone. The rules still favor repetition. Commercial breaks cut the rhythm like surgical interruptions, and the narrative remains anchored to past idols, as if reviving the spirit of Jordan and LeBron is enough to cover up the lack of real emotion in what's happening today. The crazy thing is that change is already happening, but outside the NBA. It's being driven by content creators, the kids who edit games in record time, those who upload a viral reaction to Halliburton's clutch shot while the game is still ongoing. That's the NBA that people watch. That's what excites them, what circulates on social media, what thrives in vertical format with background music. It's not the official broadcast, it's the remix. And meanwhile, inside the league, everything remains the same endless schedule, the same stiff commentators, the same timeouts that kill any tension, and the most serious issue, the same way of measuring everything, as if TV ratings were still the only thermometer that counts. So the question is no longer how many people watched the game last night. The real question is, where is the real NBA happening? Where is it buzzing? Where are the fans feeling that what they see is worth it? Because if the emotion has moved to TikTok, if the passion lives on Twitch, and if the narratives are being told in YouTube Shorts, what's the point of still aiming for primetime on free-to-air TV? Change is inevitable, and if the league doesn't lead it, it will watch from the sidelines like a giant moving slowly while the world zooms past it like lightning. Basketball isn't dying, but the show as we knew it no longer exists.